So we wanted to have this conversation today due to the feedback that you have had, Joe, from your TikTok regarding the insensitive behavior that you experienced on a flight a few days ago. And since then, you've obviously had a lot of comments on your TikTok video, and also it's now been streamed live on the Sun Online, which has had more comments. But what we felt when we looked at it was a conversation that needed to be had, because there seems to be a lot of people that are feeling the same way as you, that are experiencing real hidden emotion with regards to their body size. And I think we wanted to stress that this conversation is not about saying that any particular size is good or bad, but just about those people who are experiencing emotional trauma in regards to their size. Now, that size could be a size 8, or that size could be a size 16, which I know differs in the States. I think it's 2 sizes smaller. So the UK 14 is a 10, is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So when I say UK 20, I think that is actually a US 24 or 26.
Okay, not the other way around. I thought it was registered.
Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it's the other way around.
Right. Okay.
Don't know. So we're in the UK.
Yes.
So
yeah, obviously.
So we that's what we're going to have to go for. Otherwise, I'm bound to end up offending somebody else.
Yeah. So I think do you want to just really quickly tell the experience that you had again on your flight, and maybe just bring to light the actual reason, because I think that's been misinterpreted with other comments. I think just try to explain actually not just the experience, but really what actually happened and why that made you feel how it made you feel.
Sure. Well, obviously I'll do it really quickly because there is a TikTok on it. But basically we're on the flight. We didn't choose our tickets. We didn't get to choose them. We were just allocated them, which I assume is just standard.
Seats?
My seats.
Yeah.
Sorry. I should probably say I have ADHD, which gives me a very short-term memory, and often what I'm thinking doesn't translate and come out my mouth. So I could be saying, and I sat in a fridge, and Glenys will correct me.
And I'm here for that, so that's okay.
Yeah, basically. And if I go down a rabbit hole, Glenys he'll pick me up. So yeah, we were sat in the back row of a plane. I've never sat in the back row before, right next to the toilets. And I always sit on a window seat just because I suffer from claustrophobia, always have done. So window seat, even though I'm terrified of flying and I don't look out the window, it gives me that sense of I'm not locked in. So I got into what I thought was going to be the window seat, sat down, and immediately realized being the back seat, there was no window. There was like, you could see a tiny bit of the window in front. And I was like, oh no, this is not going to work for me. I instantly felt this is not good. So I stood up, put my knee on the chair, as you do, and you stand waiting on the seats. And because the whole plane was coming in via the back, which was fine. And I said to my husband, who was 2 seats away from me on the same row, I said, oh, do you mind swapping? I was like, yeah, fine, whatever. And he was waiting to put his bag up top. And obviously the entire plane was coming in and passing as we were kind of one of the first ones in, because the way you get off the bus, anyway, I'm going off. And so everybody sat down, looked like it was settled. My husband was looking around to see, where can I put the bag, see if there's some space. I was like, oh yeah, there's some space up there. And the cabin crew person was stood right, because obviously they're welcoming people on. So if he could see me, and he then kind of stepped into the, I don't know what it's called, let's call it the aisle. And he could see that I was obviously kneeling on my seat and talking to my husband. And he was like, kind of like, got his attention. And I was like, oh, don't worry, I'm just changing seats with my husband because I'm feeling a bit claustrophobic. And he said, oh, sorry, people with extension belts can't sit here. And he said it really, in my opinion, really loudly. And quite a few rows kind of like, you know. And I was like, yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that information. Because I'm just like, now I'm dying in myself. I'm like, yeah, thank you. Yeah, great. So not only have I had a real problem with my self-image that day and thinking, crikey, I look horrendous, you know, coming back from holiday, clothes are tighter than they went, they're sticky because it's hot, I'm wearing clothes for the plane and not for the country I was in, obviously. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I already felt really not nice. And then he has said this, and I'm like, I don't need an extension belt. I don't need an extension belt, you know. So I didn't
And you
say,
hadn't asked for one at this point, obviously, because you don't need one. So you had no interaction with him at all.
None.
And he just assumed that you needed an extension seat.
He obviously looked at me and thought whatever he thought. He obviously thought I looked bigger than I am, which, you know, wasn't a great feeling for me. Because I'm like, great, thank you. It's just reinforced my feelings about myself. And it was like, and I just felt like a big spotlight just came on my head. I'm like, hey, fatty over here, come on. You know, not only am I fat, I can't sit in that freaking seat. So I, you know, obviously this all went on in like a millisecond. And so I just said, well, thanks for that information, but I won't be needing one, you know. So I got out, swapped seats with my husband, who was completely oblivious because he had a cold and he was far more concentrated on that. And so he moved in one, my daughter sat in the aisle and in the window seat, and I sat in the aisle. And that was it. That was actually all that happened. But oh my goodness, I was distraught, I think would probably be the right word. I was so deeply embarrassed. I was mortified. People had turned around. The woman sat next to me. You know, you when people look at you in a certain way, you think, oh, I know what you're thinking. Obviously, I have no idea what she's thinking. She might be thinking, poor woman, you know, or she doesn't look like she needs an extension belt, or I didn't know you can, you know, I didn't know you could sit in these seats. I didn't even know they were emergency seats. Who knew these seats were emergency seats? I know the ones where the doors are and extra leg room.
Can we just touch on also, when it's an emergency seat, why can a person with an extension belt not sit in one?
Well, I don't know. I can only go by the hearsay and the many comments I've received on TikTok. So obviously after the event today, I've had vast amounts of comments, and some people have questioned exactly that. One person who said they were ex-cabin crew said it could be because the extension belt itself, if there was an emergency and you took it off, could then be sitting in the aisle and people could trip over it. Get it? People that have not been quite so nice have said it's because you're so freaking huge that you're going to be an obstacle and nobody can get past. And basically, I'll be a plug to the whole plane, and I'll stop everybody getting off in an emergency.
Surely you get off first, but okay, right?
But apparently, from what the comments I'm getting, I would obviously not be able to do that, because getting an extension belt, from the comments that I've read, that are the mean comments, obviously, many of which I have deleted. Many nobody can see on TikTok because they're not just aimed at me. The ones that are aimed at me, I've left. A bit rubbish, but I've left them. The ones that are left at larger people in general, I've removed, because it's just not necessary for that level of hatred to go to a whole group of people. But trip hazard, my body being an obstacle, and then somebody was gracious enough to say it could be that bigger people aren't strong enough to help in an emergency, which again, I'm not sure that that's true, because I'm quite strong. And let me tell you, it's an emergency and my daughter is 2 seats next to me. I'm mama bear. A door is being ripped off.
Yes,
I mean, my daughter's there, mama bear's out. It doesn't matter if I'm size 8, 6, 4 or 39. If there's no 39.
So just the assumption that we're going with, and from what you've been told by cabin crew, is that you're not, the assumption is if you're a larger size, you're not fit and able to be able to do the
Help.
emergency procedure that they tell you need to do if you're sitting in that seat.
Yes, but I must reiterate, this is hearsay, as in this
Yeah.
is comments that I've got off TikTok from people who claim to be cabin crew. I don't know if they are, because obviously it's TikTok, but that's what I've gleaned from the conversations.
So let's move past the fact of that specific incident, because what it's brought to light is that incident is not a one-off situation, and that happens a lot. And obviously from the comments you're getting, and also the hate, I didn't realize you'd actually deleted comments that have been made. Are you able to like share any that you could share, just so that it's obvious kind of what line of thought some people are coming from?
I think we have to be careful not to give air to the trolls, because some people are just vile for the sake of being vile.
Yeah.
And obviously, yeah, there's a whole host of reasons why people are really cruel. But one person who I actually deleted their comments and left one, because I thought their other comments may have been read, and then this one I did respond to in a video, and it was, it's a shame, I actually do have it on me, but obviously I don't want to get distracted, but it was along the lines of they were just being very mean about being fat, and very mean about the fact that you know, what's the issue? Obviously there are much worse things going on in the world, which there are, and it was something along the lines of just lose a bit of weight. I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it in front of me. Just lose the weight. I wish I could lose the weight, or lose my illness the same way as losing weight, or something like that. But they mentioned illness. So that's the one that I kept, because that allowed me to say, okay, your other comments I have deleted are just awful against humanity.
Yeah.
Nobody deserves what they said. And it wasn't aimed at me. It was aimed at every fat person. So I'm like, I'm just not putting that out there in the world. But I did say,
sounds like it's come from a bitter person that maybe isn't well, and maybe.
And that's what I've said. I've said, you know, I'm really sorry that you must be feeling poorly, and that's why you are hurting and you're putting this out in the world. And now I understand, with you having said that you're poorly, that's why you might be so aggressive. So I'm very sorry that you are feeling poorly, but, you know, please, there's no need for this kind of hate. And, you know, again, it's really horrible because I don't want to put the stuff out there, but one of the comments, not from this person, one of the comments was really kind of a bit sarcasm. And they were saying, well, thank heavens I've not sat next to a fat person who have slobbered all over me and invaded my seat. And, you know, I'm like, oh, that's a bit cutting. And yeah, there are other messages, unfortunately, on the rest of social media that I don't have access to delete. And some of them are really just quite awful. And, you know, you've got sarcastic ones like, well, stop eating the pies, love, you know, fine. You know, there's lots of stuff. But
Jo,
and some of it is actually proper hatred.
Why don't you stop eating the pies? Let's address that, because I think for people that are maybe looking at someone that is of a larger size, and bearing in mind this conversation isn't just about people of a larger size. You know, I know people who are size 8 that have this issue as well, where they feel really sensitive about their body at a specific time or whatever. So this isn't about size. This is the conversation, and this is why the conversation is so important, because feeling really uncomfortable in your body, no matter what size you are, you know, is there some emotional things that are going on? I mean, there's some people we know that are larger than life. They love their size, they embrace it, they're full of self-worth, I guess. And, you know, it doesn't matter what size they are. So we're not talking about those people. Like, never be ashamed of your body. You know, obviously we're always going to promote, love your body, love the skin that you're in, but that isn't always the case. So, you know, why is it not just simple for you to stop eating all the pies, as that wonderful person commented?
Well, I have had body image issues since I was 13. I first put my fingers down my throat when I was 13, and I did not have I didn't have a catalyst. Actually, there was a catalyst. My dad made a really foul comment, but I think, a size 14, maybe 12, 14 at the time. And my dad commented, and I was like, oh,
What did he
crikey. And
say?
so that,
Can you remember?
yeah, it was something along the lines of, I think, what had I eaten? Chips? I'd eaten something, and I was walking up the stairs, and he was behind me and I'd been in the toilet as well because I'd had an upset tummy, nothing to do with the food, just because I had. And it was something along the lines of, you get in a effing fat ass, effing sort yourself out kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, okay, thanks for that. I've had many worse comments from my family, but that was the first I remember. But I have lost 8 stone, and I have regained 6, and then I've lost 4 stone, and I've regained 2. Oh my gosh, talk about yo-yo from the age of 13. My heaviest, I got to 21 stone. I don't know what that is in American, but 21 stone. So 21 times 14, that's what I was in terms of pounds. And that was a size 28, 30 UK size. For me, that was big. I've got lots of photographs of me on my website showing that size. And I've had this hatred of my body my entire life. And I believe, and I have spent thousands on therapy, and it is not magically resolved this. I don't know how many therapists I've had. I currently have one at the minute, trying to get to the root cause so I can stop hating myself and punishing myself. But I believe it comes down to one of my earliest memories is when I was sexually abused at the age of 6. And then that was then compounded by other events. I was totally neglected as a child. My parents were a little bit unusual, shall we say, definitely neglected, really wasn't, I just wasn't important. And then and so all these things just adding up and adding up. And then obviously 13 comes, lots of problems, change of school, got into trouble. And now at 51, being diagnosed with ADHD, I was also coping with undiagnosed ADHD, which brings it rejection sensitivity, and I'm neglected by my family, and I've been sexually assaulted. I was also molested at a bus stop, but hey, that's a whole different situation, but that might be in the mix. I don't know if that's in the mix, but there's lots of horrible stuff.
Can I just stop you just for a second, Jo? Because what's obviously interesting is, as you're talking about really, really emotionally traumatic things, like you're speaking about them like they're really blasé. And I think that's what happens for a lot of people that end up emotionally eating, is they try to be blasé about their feelings and their emotions. They don't want to feel them. They don't want to go to that place where they really recognize how horrific and traumatic that thing is. And so, it's pushing that.
We eat them.
Yes.
Well, I'm saying we. I shouldn't say we. Please do not give me hate on this going, well, that's not what I feel like. La, la, la. This is my experience.
Yeah.
My experience is I eat it. I eat those feelings, so I do not speak them and I do not feel them. Age 6, I didn't have a voice. I had parents that were very unusual, that were definitely nobody that I could talk to. So I couldn't vocalize. So food was a number. It numbed me. And the reality
I
don't know when that started.
The diets that you've been on since you were 13 and you're now 51, so that's many years of dieting. Yeah. And obviously I've known you for 30 years.
I know.
And so I've seen your weight hugely fluctuate. And I know the struggle that you have daily with food and dieting. And I think it's coming to a point now where the recognition is like food isn't going to solve this. And I even know that you went to the, I can't remember the name of it, Jo. Is it food addiction or Food Anonymous or what?
Overeaters Anonymous.
Yes. Say that again.
Overeaters Anonymous. They're the same as Alcoholics Anonymous and Gamblers Anonymous. There is an Overeaters Anonymous.
And I wanted to bring that piece of information forward because I think it's really important for people to understand that for some people, this is a disease. That's what the issue is. And you know, the difference is, you know, some of the time you can't hide behind your size. You know, it's
I
out there
can't
for
hide behind my
everybody.
size, full stop. There's
So
no
when
hiding my size.
so when somebody is really pointing the finger at you, hence the, you know, the cabin, because of course, in the bigger picture and in the world, is it a huge incident? No. Is it a big deal? No. But to you, when you're suffering in the way that you're suffering and dealing with what you're dealing with, it's massive. It's a
It is
huge thing for
massive for
someone to
me.
point you out.
Yeah, and bear in mind, I have ADHD and that rejection, so I kind of
Yes.
felt it quite a bit more, and I reject myself more than anybody can reject
Course.
me. So, and you know, and the thing is, it's like I wrote notes during this for the 2.5 hours that I was trying to compose myself. I was on my phone writing notes. I have published those notes unedited, apart from a PS at the bottom, onto my website, just to show what is going on in my head during that moment. And for me, I was absolutely mortified. I felt embarrassed. I felt ashamed that I couldn't control my food, and it was obviously there for everybody to see. It was very obvious there is something that I cannot control. Whereas, you know, I used to drink. Nobody knew I drank unless I was drunk and falling over. I used to do drugs. Nobody knew I was doing drugs unless I was high as a kite, you know, and I've given all that up. And the one thing I cannot seem to control is my food. And having spoken, there's a whole other issue here about ADHD and food as a coping mechanism. So actually my food, my psychiatrist has said, is my coping mechanism. So we need to get my ADHD medicated, and then I can release food from my coping mechanism. So there's also that in the mix as well. But for me, it's, you know, a daily, hourly, sometimes struggle to love my life, to live in my life. And don't get me wrong, there are far more important things in the world, and I'm so aware of it. We lost someone just last week, and it's like, and here I am, miserable in my body, and someone's just lost their life. And that person loved their life, and they were amazing, and they were so fabulous. Just, it was such tragedy. And in that, I am aware what I'm experiencing is pathetic in people's eyes and in my eyes. And that feeling like life is too short, I shouldn't be feeling this way. But the reality is I do. And I'm ashamed that I do. So I'm ashamed of the thought process that I'm ashamed of my body.
Like, you know, you're not on your own. There's many millions of people that are experiencing their body image in the same way. And you know, a lot of that is based on emotional trauma.
I think a lot of it is emotional trauma. A lot of it can genuinely be through medication.
Yes.
You know, I posted on my Facebook that this was what's happening, and these are my notes. So I kind of put my notes on my Facebook because it had already gone out there. So I'm like, well, I might as well just bloody give everybody the whole story. I've already now made a complete tit of myself, and I've totally made myself vulnerable. So I might as well write what was in my head as well. So I did that, and somebody immediately came on because on my post on the PS, I wrote, you know, some people, please be kind, because some people like me eat because of the trauma that they've had in their past, and other people are surviving cancer. You know, other people, it's given, and some of those comments really show that people think I'm sitting there shoving cream cake in my mouth, and I do eat cream cake. I do. Every day? No. Every week? No. I do eat it. I had a, you know, you saw me scoff it when I was reading the bad comments. Starbucks cinnamon swirl went in my mouth. Comfort.
Yes.
So, but
well,
you know, people are medicated, and they're swelling, and they're getting their bodies betray them, and they're trying to survive with medication that's keeping them alive, and their bodies are changing, and people are looking at them and going, you know, eat less, exercise more, you know, stop scoffing the pies.
That's the real huge underlying thing of what we really wanted to bring forward, was that diet and exercise 100% makes changes to your body, and it makes you look good and it makes you feel good. That's a fact.
Yeah.
But so when people give you the advice, Jo, have you thought about going on a diet?
Never.
You know,
Of course.
that's what I think is trying to get that message across when people are looking at somebody that's maybe bigger, is instead of looking at them think that they sit and eat cake all day, you know, what they're actually sitting in all day is trauma.
Some people actually are purposefully
Yes.
eating, and some people are enjoy being fed, you know.
Yes.
I've done research back in the day on the London Underground. When I say underground, the London Fat Underground, not the London Underground tube station.
Yeah.
And there are clubs that I've attended where people
I went
are
with you,
feeders.
Jo. I went.
Well, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And they're feeders, and there's magazines of people that feed bigger people, and those people love being big, and the people that feed them love it. That's you know, so people, a big population, I don't know if it's big actually, I don't know what the population number is, but some people purposefully do that. Others don't.
Yeah.
And some people are slightly bigger for whatever reason, and they love their lives. And they're like, rock on. I've got a lot of comments going, yeah, come on, you know, we shouldn't be ashamed. You should not be ashamed.
Absolutely.
I am. Yes. I really would like to hide that I am not in control. Yes. I can't. Whatever I put on this body, it doesn't become an average, normal body.
Yeah, that says to you, I'm not in control of this part in my life. Bearing in mind, you're a hugely successful businesswoman, an author. I know you run several businesses. You know, I know as a friend, you have amazing wisdom and insight into life.
Not so much when I post on TikTok, it would appear.
Well, you do actually. You know, that's only a few people that just are not really understanding where you're coming from. And I don't know how much time we've got left, Jo, or how
we
quickly
have got 5 minutes for this recording, and obviously we can do another, but we've got 5 minutes.
Can we end this recording? Can I read what you wrote? I know that it's up for people to read, but I read this and it really upset me. A, because you're my friend, but B, because I can relate. So I'm hoping I'm going to read the thing you actually posted and that was something different, but I think this is it. So
if it's from the sun, please don't read it.
Just after the incident had happened on the flight, after that had been said to you and you was dying inside and you didn't want to bring more attention to yourself by crying or hitting out, so you was frantically doing what you do best, and that's write about how you was feeling. So this is what Jo wrote. There is no hiding my demons. Alcoholics, drug addicts, gamblers, etc. You may not know when you meet them. My demons are clear to see in my size 20 body. Do you feel I don't know this? Is there a chance I may not have figured this out for myself? I carry shame like a rucksack that chafes the arms, hurts the back, and hidden inside it, something that smells like death. Determined to ooze out and infect anyone who draws near. I cannot hide. I cannot shrink. I cannot not be seen. And yet I see page after page on Instagram saying how precious this one life is. What will you do with it today? Hide. No, not possible unless I generally hide away. This body isn't often ignored, although as it has aged, the comments aren't given so freely as when it is in youth. No longer does it warrant being shouted at from lowlifes in a white van or laughed at by beauties in bikinis at the pool. No longer do I see people rolling their eyes as I squeeze past them in a crowded restaurant. Old age has made me less fun to ridicule. I may look like someone's nan, therefore human, but it hasn't stopped insensitivity. Judgments are still made, brows furry in pity, or is it disdain? Hard to know. Nothing is impossible, we are told. You can be anything you desire. We are led from a young age. We are fed from a young age, sorry. I should have put glasses on, I apologize. And many people achieve this dream, not always those who are raised by wolves, childhood abuse, adolescent tragedy, neglect. These aren't the normal foundation that dreams are made in. Middle age has been and gone. A new age is trying to form. Not retirement yet, but the space between your children fleeing the nest and grandchildren filling the void. The void. The plans that can form in this gap have permeated. I apologize. My eyes are going.
Darling, don't worry about it. I need 3 pairs of glasses. Hang on, where am I?
You can't do this as you are too big, not that as too fat. If the fat doesn't stop you, the shame does. Oh, to paddleboard alone in a lake with no teacher, no audience to see you, to fall in again and again with no one to laugh or stare. Maybe I would make it on the 30th attempt, as hard work is not the issue for me, but humiliation certainly is. The desire for adventure are many, but this body, alas, will not allow. I talk about living with regret. My screensaver declares no regrets. I've even considered getting the words tattooed on my hand to see them all the time. But instead of a reminder, I fear it will be a punishment, showing that I am unable to achieve the most basic thing, or so I'm told. Eat less, exercise more, thin you will be.
Can I hold you just there, Glenys, because we have now got less than a minute. So I think what we should do is go, this was part 1, and let's do a part 2, and we'll stop at that very, very last bit. I'm unable to achieve the most basic thing, or so I'm told. Eat less, exercise more, than you will be. We had a bit of a gap. Glenys had a couple of issues with her laptop, hence why now she looks suddenly a little bit different, and she's moved on to her phone. And she was having a bit of a struggle reading because the print is tiny, tiny on the phone. So because I've got my granny glasses on, yours are far more sexier than mine.
I should wear glasses, but I don't.
I have 3 pairs. I need to resolve that. Whole different video. Right, so we're just going to literally finish off with where we were. So I'm going to just carry on where Glenys was reading the notes from my website. So the last sentence was, I am unable to achieve the most basic thing, or so I'm told. Eat less, exercise more, thin you will be. A thesaurus would hold multiple descriptions, but the ones that float uninvited every few moments are failed, useless, worthless, pathetic, with acute embarrassment following me around like a lost puppy begging for attention. Don't get me wrong, I'm extremely intelligent. I own a few businesses. I have written 2 novels and a screenplay, 2 actually ADHD. I've actually forgotten I wrote 2. Anyway, different story. And I'm a successful artist. I have provided a fabulous home for my family and a privileged lifestyle. I know where I excel. I am a loving mother and wife, fabulous if someone demanding, as you know, friend. I am generous to those I love as much as those I don't. I could go on. But all of these positives are entirely overshadowed by the shadow of failure. Even my well-meaning friends have said, oh, you aren't fat, which actually translates into you aren't ugly. As to them, they go hand in hand. And that's the problem. I am fat, F-A. I'm not ugly. But in general society, the two go together like cheese and wine. When I make a stand and pull people up for lack of sensitivity or judgment, I'm seen as a Karen. If I don't, then others will be put in the same firing line through continued ignorance. See what I mean about generosity? More often, I confront to save others like me from being diminished by someone's thoughtless comments. If I speak up, others may be saved. Does this help me? No. At the best of times, my ADHD can cause me to seem blunt. Couple that with despair and shame, and I can come across as far too direct. Often my words have been like ice water to the face of those who haven't realised their prejudice. I realise this, but short of sobbing, which I've come close to, being direct and asking for more thought and sensitivity when speaking to those they may consider less than is my preferred route. As I sit in this plane seat preparing to land after being humiliated by a member of the cabin crew, 2 hours earlier, I've suggested to him quietly how he needs to be more sensitive and watch what he says and how loudly. The tears shimmer, but they do not fall. Still reeling from the shame heaped upon me earlier, I decided I wouldn't eat the chocolate offered to me twice, somehow believing that this was the turnaround point for me. 30 minutes later, I succumb and find comfort in sucking the sweet layers of chocolate, admitting failure again, but knowing that was only the second time in 7 days I had momentarily believed I could turn this around. So not that bad compared to a normal week. This wasn't a normal week, as I am returning from 7 days holiday in Greece. 7 days of slathering lotion over this white, fat body, watching it turn red, looking forward to the brown. Age has ensured I am not wholly mortified, not as I was in my 20s, but walking from sunbed to pool has been like a never-ending walk of shame, dulled only by the pina coladas and daiquiris consumed before midday. I'm embarrassed for my husband, although I am aware he adores me. I worry I have passed my hatred of my body to my daughter, who is beautiful, but she doesn't see it. I have found yet another way to fail. Trying to hide my pain is hard. I don't want to be pitied. I just want society to fuck off and give me a break. And of course, I mean that I just want to eat less and exercise more and be skinny. I pray I don't have to wait until in my old age to achieve this, but hope left the building years ago. But not gone so far that I'm not going to torture myself by trying at least 6 times a year, if not more, to achieve what I believe is actually beyond me. It's not through lack of trying. I believe the rejection of my parents sits in every cell of my body. And the only comfort I can find is the poison of said body by quieting it with food. I've prayed for healing of obesity for so many years that I've given up. I remember attending a special healing service where I genuinely believed I would come out holding my jeans up as I would have been supernaturally healed. What a sucker. What is the purpose of these words? No idea. They won't change society, may even cause me to be pitied by my peers, heaven forbid, or most likely trolled. But maybe one person will be spared the wrath of someone's unthinking comments. Few things to ponder if you've got this far. Anyone who is fat knows they are fat. Not happy about it, but they don't want your pity. You cannot say anything to a fat person that they haven't already tormented themselves about, but your words can push someone hanging on by a very thin thread over the edge. Fat doesn't equal stupid. Fat doesn't equal ugly. If a fat is in their 20s, believe me, they've already tried every diet you may want to talk to them about. Being 10 pounds overweight once and then losing it doesn't mean you have any understanding of what long-term obesity is and how difficult it is to live with. If you say, just eat less and exercise more to a yo-yo dieter in their 30s, you'd better have superhuman reflexes if you catch them on their last nerve. And everyone who is fat scoffed cream cakes for years. Some people are using food to cope with trauma. I fall into this bracket, and others may be surviving cancer. When describing someone as fat and then saying to me, no offense, believe me, you just made it really fucking offensive. Just saying. And then I have some PSs, which I don't know if you want to go in here because they were added after. All of that was just me brain dumping, trying to stop myself from crying my eyes out on that plane. And the PSs are when I come back, anticipating some of the comments that I might have got. So that's the hindsight PSs. So.
Well, as I say, when I read it, it really upset me, and it really upset me because it rang, all the nerves in me, because I suffer in the same way. My weight goes up and down. When I'm overwhelmed and I'm really not coping with life, then I'm at my biggest. And, when I'm in a really good space and I'm really loving life, then that's when I'm in a happy place in my body. And, I've had those, I've had that humiliation, Joe, of having being around a swimming pool and you just feel like you're the fattest person around the swimming pool, and that every single person is looking at you as you're walking from your sunbed to the swimming pool. And we had a really funny conversation a few weeks ago where I said to you, I went to my local gym that's got a swimming pool, and it was the first time in I don't know how long since I've regained lots of weight that I decided to use the swimming pool and the sauna. And I decided to do it on a Sunday afternoon when there was nobody there. And as I walked round, I noticed there's no one there. So I walked around in my towel. I hung my towel up quickly and I ran into the sauna thinking I made it, only to then be confronted by 4 of the hottest men walked into the sauna, and I just wanted to die. I was like, why? I don't want to be here. I could have stayed there until I was approved because I didn't want to get up.
Laughing because of the bit that I know happened after this, which makes me seem so insensitive. But there's a bit that after this bit that I'm just focusing on. So I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the
I know. The thing is, it is really funny when you tell the story, but in the moment, I just had to stop myself vomiting because I don't want to sit there and feel like I'm embarrassed or ashamed about who I am, because I'm a good person.
You're a fabulous person.
But it doesn't come across when I'm sitting in a swimming costume and I'm looking at this body and thinking, how did I get here? And why am I so ashamed of this body? So I left the sauna humiliated, and I went into the steam room because I thought there was no one in there, because obviously this door is steamed up. But when I opened the door, it was full. And so I found the one spot that I could sit down, and I sat down, and I wanted to move a little bit because I was uncomfortable and I wanted to hide myself a bit. And as I moved, obviously the seat is wet, I'm wet. The noise that came from the water and me sitting there sounded, it was the loudest fart sound. And I just wanted to die. If someone had walked in the room and shot me, then I would have been happy. I was just, it was so humiliating. And everyone was really great. Thankfully, no one said anything, but feel the energy in that place change, and it was horrific. And now I won't go back and do that.
No, I have to just actually say, for those who don't know my personality, which is obviously everybody watching this apart from Glenys, we had a conversation about this that I'm already in. We've had that conversation. It was really inappropriate. 2 girls absolutely wetting ourselves about this bloody sound that was made in the sauna. And that is why I've laughed through everything she's just said, because I just so know that sound. It's just you just want to die of embarrassment. And I think that's got nothing to do with being fat. It just happens to us all, doesn't it? But that's sounding like, it just sounds like I've just,
But I think that everybody in the steam room is looking at me thinking, you've made that noise because you're a fat person. A thin person would have made that noise when they moved.
Yeah.
And that's I've gone into darkness. I apologize. That's what I wish had happened in the steam room.
Oh, so funny. What's happened? You had a power cut? Or is it God going, just stop?
If I put that on, then I'm really blanched out. So we won't do that. Whatever.
Did you lose a light?
No, there was a light attached to my laptop, which obviously has just died. But I do have a plan B, actually, that I could figure out.
Okay, well, 2 seconds and I will press pause. And we have light.
Ta-da! So, that was, it's the humiliation. And again, it's just the point for me is that I just feel like I can't control that part of myself. And that makes me mad. And I feel like I wear that on my body and that everyone can see that. and I'm a private person, so it horrifies me that people can see that about me. You know, and obviously in the work that I'm doing, where I'm, you know, coaching other people and having those feelings inside, that's not good either. And
it just doesn't add up, does it? To society, it doesn't add up. You know, people, and there's been many comments on TikTok and on other social medias now. To my horror, it's been shared globally via all social medias, mortifyingly. I think it's that assumption, isn't it? That, you know, we are, why can't you just eat less?
Yeah, why?
Diet. I mean,
Why
you know, why not? Why can't you? Well, I can, and I do. And then my brain goes, I don't think so. And that is that. And then it comes back up. So I get a glimpse of control, a glimpse of hope. And, you know, we do. And Glenys, you have in many times done complete clean eating for bloody months on end. I mean, I'm like, how on earth do you do that? I mean, you know, hats off to you. I don't know. But
it's important to say here as well. Obviously, I owned a gym for 10 years. So I know all the things to do. And you know, I opened the gym size 16. And I did that for the reason of, it doesn't matter what size you are, you can still exercise. Yeah. And it was a big thing that I wanted to have this, you know, love your body, love the size that you're in, love the skin that you're in. And that was a big motto for me. And, you know, that when I was in a good place and I was working out all the time and I did the clean eating and, you know, I felt on top of the world. And I thought, I've cracked this, I've got it, you know. And then, you know, fast forward however many years, and then something happened in my life, which to me was really traumatic. And I just went right back to my old ways and my old habits. And since that's maybe 3 years now, I haven't been able to get out of it. And every single day I say to myself, do not go to the shop and do not buy yourself a bar of chocolate. And every single day I'm in the shop and I have a bar of chocolate in my hand, and I just cannot control that impulse. I can't, you know, and I will myself, and I'm meditating on it, and I'm manifesting it, and I'm praying it, and I'm reading all the books. The book that this phone is sitting on is Alan Carr's Easy Way to Quit Emotional Eating.
I think I gave you that one.
You gave me the recommendation for it. So it's not through want of trying. I am so desperate to get to the bottom of this and stop this, you know. And as you know, I was on a week-long workshop last week where the talk is that you take your mind out of your body, you stop letting your body control your life. And, you know, that's really what I'm hoping is going to resolve this. But, you know, 2 bars of chocolate today.
Same as me. I'm getting absolute hatred on TikTok because I made what now appears to have been a really big mistake by trying to illustrate the whole scenario. I tried to mimic the guy's voice. You know, I didn't make a great job of it. No, who knows where that voice came from?
I thought it was terrible job, though.
It was. But yeah, I know, and it's like, where in the world that came from, I don't know. But in my head, it sounded like him. And it was more, I was demonstrating what he said and how he said it. That is obviously, this is where I really wish there was an edit button on TikTok, because if there was, I would take it off. I would remove that little thing. That would be gone. And the other thing about ADHD is you lose your freaking chain of thought. And I've totally forgot what I was telling you that.
That's why you've eaten today, the way you've eaten.
That is exactly right. Sorry, yes. So, you know, when my husband on the plane as well, I'm sat there now dying, writing all those notes. And my husband's got some little dairy milk wrapped up things and completely oblivious. He's going, do you want a chocolate? I'm going, no, thank you. Dying.
Because you don't want people to see you eating.
Because that's why I'm fat, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, why are you upset? Why are you upset that this guy has said the obvious to you because you're fat? Why are you upset? you know, and it's like, because you're eating, stop eating. I'm like, it is not about eating.
No,
That food is medication.
absolutely.
And I hate that it is. With every
I thought
breath
that
I hate, but it is.
I thought that yesterday. I had a slight migrainey head yesterday, and I hate taking tablets, but it got towards the evening and I thought I actually really need to get rid of this. And I took a tablet, and as I took that, I really understood when you say to me it's medication. I thought, when I feel a certain way, chocolate is my medicine.
Yeah.
It isn't an excuse. I know it's not an excuse. I know some people will be watching that and be like, oh, that's just an excuse. And it is. It really is. But I don't know how to not make it an excuse. That's the thing. I don't know how to change it. Just like, perhaps, I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn if I say, like, an alcoholic doesn't know how to not have that glass of whatever it is, wine. Like, I feel like it's the same thing, and it's awful with food, because I was speaking to another friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, and she was saying that she loathes eating. She loathes people seeing her eating out, because she's unhappy with her size, and she feels like everyone is thinking, why are you eating, you're fat. I mean, it's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
And the thing is, people, because you're fat and therefore they think you're stupid, and therefore you're actually, I think people that are fat have been stopped looking like humans. You know, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation, because there have been many instances that I've been treated like a non-human, and I've witnessed my sister really being treated like a non-human. You know, and you know, my sister's story is her story to tell, should she wish to tell it. You know, but I was with my husband walking down a high street holding hands, kind of just delighted to be that kind of just loved up phase, and a white van went past with a bunch of builders, and they threw and hit me with a freaking sandwich and shouted, "Fat fucking bitch." And I'm like, wow, when did I stop being human? You know, when does that happen? You know, and some of the comments today, I was called a vulgarian, vulgar. I didn't know there was such a word, but I was called a vulgarian, you know. But whether they were talked about my body or my bad language, I'm not sure, but I'm fairly certain it was in relation to my body. But you know, people have stopped looking at bigger people with humanity.
Yes.
You know, I do know somebody who walks down the street with a bag of sweets opened in their pocket, and they've got their hands in the pocket, and they're walking, and then they'll go, you know, and they're eating as they're walking. And I know people will kind of go, well, why the hell are they eating then? Because as you're walking down the street, we are visible. I cannot hide that I have issues. This body lumbers down the road, and it's obvious. And therefore, because I've become non-human to some people, I am so visual. I cannot hide. So you medicate as much as it is like an alcoholic. And I can say this because I am close friends with someone who wouldn't mind me saying this. It is like an alcoholic where you wake up and you go, that is it. No more. I am not freaking ruining my life anymore. I am destroying my life. I am destroying the people around me with it. I am not drinking. 11 o'clock. I'll just have one. Just one. I'll just have a sip. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, smashed. Yeah. And the next day you start the same. And that is how my mindset is.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that's the same for everybody. That is my mindset. And the reality is, yes, if I ate less calories, I would lose weight. Of course I would. I already play tennis 3 times a week. I was playing tennis 4 times a week before I got COVID and then got a bit knackered. So I'm down to just 3 and building myself. So I'm already exercising. I don't tend to eat until I get to, you know, people at work, which I just genuinely don't, until I get home. And then I will eat enough calories for 4 people.
Yeah.
Some days. Other days, you know, this wonderful Fitbit thing, I'll eat 400 calories a day.
I don't know about you, Jo, but I know for me that I have stopped this I changed how I was eating, because the mindset is, don't eat that, it's fattening, or don't eat that, it's got lots of calories in it. So I'll choose something that hasn't, thinking I'm doing the right thing, when really what I want is the thing with lots of calories in it. So now I just eat what I want to eat.
Yeah.
And not worry about calorie content, fat content. And if I did just that, my diet would be great. You know, the meals that I eat are pretty healthy, but it's just the chocolate. That's what I can't stop. And if I could stop having those, then I would feel like I'm able, if I just want to be able to say no. And of course I can say no, it's just came out of my mouth, no thank you. But in that moment, and I go to the shop on my own, I make excuses to go to the shop, even when my daughter's here. And I'm like, oh, I'm just popping to the shop for milk. I'm not. I'm popping to the shop because I want to get more chocolate.
Yeah. I feel it. I do it.
I'm even embarrassed to say it to my daughter, because she'll be like, Mum, you're wonderful and you're beautiful. And I hear that all the time. But you're beautiful, but you're beautiful. And I don't have a problem with my face.
But that's what I was going to say. That is the issue. People always, it drives me demented. And I'm really sorry, because people I know are going to watch this and go, oh, that was me. Yes, it was. Don't worry about it. But people always say to me, you're not fat. You're not fat. Don't be silly. You're not fat, because they think fat equals ugly.
Yes.
I'm not ugly. I'm not the most beautiful woman in the world, but I know I'm not ugly. But in society's mind, when demonstrated to me, fat equals ugly. So even though I'm obviously fat, there is no other word for me. I'm not gently plump. I'm fat. And that's okay. That's okay to say. And for me to say, and for you to say, yeah, well, yeah, you are. I am. But but the fact that they go, no, you're not, don't be silly. That perpetuates the fact that therefore it's something that I should be ashamed of. Because if I was fat, if you did tell me I was fat, and if I admitted I was fat and they went, yeah, actually you're fat, they think that means that is an issue. You should be ashamed of yourself. And that is one of the massive problems, is people are just not accepting.
Well, the problem
should be just fat.
The problem is we are ashamed. We are ashamed of ourselves. That's the issue, is that we are. So whether people think we should or not, you know, the real issue isn't them, it's us. We are ashamed of ourselves.
I'm totally ashamed of me.
Exactly. As am I.
But I'm not of other people that are fat. Go figure. You know, other people, I know loads of people that are much bigger than me, and some of them are in my personal circle. And I would die for them if I thought they felt about themselves how I feel about me. I genuinely do not see these people's weight. I see their personality. I see that they're lovely. They have to be patient to have me as a friend. So they've got some lovely qualities about them. And I just don't, it doesn't occur to me to judge their weight. But my weight, for me, is horrendous. And I judge me, and I am filled with shame. But I don't feel that about other people.
And that's why it's very difficult when someone else points it out to you, like the cabin crew, because it's what you already feel about yourself. And it's like a super slap in the face, because you, like me, want to hide the fact that you really feel like that internally.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
when someone brings that to you, you're like, oh, that's just, the feeling is just, it's just gutting, isn't it? It's raw, it's awful.
And I think for me as well, and again, this is my experience, this is not the same for everybody else, but I am aware I am too big. I am aware I am not healthy. For my daughter, I have really tried to hide that from her. Obviously, it's out there now, we're screwed. She knows now, what can I do? That was taken out of my hands when I was stupid enough to go onto a public platform and think it was going to stay on this tiny little group of people. So yeah, bigger mug me. But anyway, you know, that kind of sensation of, I don't want to say hatred, because I love my life.
Yeah.
you know, I love the people in my life. I experience love. I experience joy. I have purpose. I have, but it's tainted by this. And the main reason it's tainted is because I feel that I cannot do anything about it.
And also, from what you were saying and what you wrote, there's a lot of adventures you want to go on, but you feel you can't because of your size.
Yeah. And it's not that my size stops me. It's like I'm desperate to paddleboard. I want a paddleboard. I used to be a triathlete. Weird, but true. I want to paddleboard. And as you know, we went to a beach and they did paddleboards. We were looking, I was like, no, I don't think so. And there's a place near us, really close to where I am. And I've contacted someone actually up north, and because we're going to visit in a few months. And I'm like, oh, there's a lake and you've got all this stuff and you've got paddleboard. And I wrote a little email saying, you know, I'd love to do paddleboarding. Can I do a private lesson? Am I too fat, too old, too knackered to give it a go? And they actually thought I was taking the piss. I'm like, okay, so I need to reword this and go, no, I'm not joking. I actually would like it. And they're like, oh, come and join a lesson. I don't want to risk being on a lake with, let's say, 8 other people. Let's assume they're healthy bodies. They may be different ages, not. Let's assume they're healthy bodies that can, number one, can get up and down from their knees. My knees are buggered anyway, so, but let's assume they can get up and down. And I cannot get on the board. I don't know if I would be able to get on the board if I fell off. I've never tried it because the horror in my head of me falling off the board, not being able to get up, and having 7 or 8 other people look at me with pity or disdain, and having that thought of going, why don't you just fucking eat less? Or silly, you know, do you know, all those thoughts that are being expressed on my TikTok, people are really being quite mean. And I'm like, that's in their thoughts. And I'm like, I can't allow myself to put myself in that position, because that rejection and mortification hurts me. It hurts my skin. It hurts my body, my soul, my brain. I'm like, and it's so hard to recover from. And so I can't put myself in that position. So I'm like, no regrets, yay, but I can't do what I want to do. And I might be an amazing paddleboarder. It might be, you know, stand-up paddle. It might be, and I believe it's what I should be doing. I can just visualize myself doing it. But I can't risk it. Yeah. I can't risk that humiliation. And that is really sad, but really true. It's because of other people. If there was a private lake with one person, I would take you and me and a paddleboard. I'd book them for 3 freaking hours if nobody could see us. And me and you would get up, we'd do it, we'd rock it, we'd be amazing at the end of it. We might fall off 30, 40, 50 times and make an absolute arse of ourselves trying to scramble up, wet ourselves laughing in fun of it. And eventually we'd be stand-up paddleboarders. That, unless anybody watching this has got a little private lake that they wouldn't mind us coming to, in which case, please email me. If not, that's not going to happen.
I did do paddleboarding, but it was a few years ago when I was in a really good place. And I was loving my body, so it's a very different time. And I moved down to the seaside. I've been here just over a year. I had visions of me being on the beach, you know, wearing nice clothes that I want to wear, being on the paddleboard, swimming, and I've done none of it because I'm just ashamed of my body.
Yeah.
And it makes my heart sad that with all the wisdom and all the knowledge that I have, that I even allow that to be a thing in my life, that I want to be on the beach saying, I love my life because I do. I love my body. I'm so grateful that I have life. And, you know, all of those things, I know all that in my heart, but I just can't take that step. It just still it's like a scar that you wear that you just will always wear. Maybe I don't know.
Well, I hope I actually come against that in Jesus' name. I'm sorry to bring that into it, but I come against that in Jesus' name, where you've said forevermore we'll carry on and that might be our life. I pray it won't be, I pray
too.
somehow we wake up and that hope that we have manifests into a reality. And I, you know, I have that hope, and then it hurts because it's dashed. But anyway, separate to that, I think there, you know, me and you could sit here if we had 5 hours. My gosh, we could sit here and talk about this for 5 hours and put the world to right, and we do. But I think it's more that, you know, the bigger picture is, I think what we've tried to express here is that we are humans. We are not stupid. We know eat less, exercise more. We know all of that. But you know what? It's really difficult. It's uncomfortable and it's sensitive. So I just want society to kind of go, let's just look with a bit more humanity.
Yeah, maybe there's something underlying going on. And I also don't want to confuse the humiliation that I sometimes feel about my body with confidence. So I'm actually a really confident person, and in a lot of situations I'm really confident, you know, and actually it's for me to felt the humiliation and the shame that I felt, and you'll know this, Joe, because you'll know many times when you've done this, I've still thought, actually I'm confident enough in myself and in my life and in who I am as a person to swallow that humiliation and go and do, you know, go to the swimming pool and sit in the steam room and make fart noises. And sit there and think, actually, I'm just a confident person. I'm going to swallow this, even though internally I'm like, this cannot be happening. So, and I think because sometimes people say to me, but you're so confident. Why? You don't seem like you've got that problem. So it gets.
That's because we're brilliant at masking as well. Yes. We can mask that because we have to move on with our lives, because as people will say, there are more important things that are going on and we have lives to live. Yes. We just live them with this horrible thought process the whole time, but we have to live. We have to make the most of this life that we are able. I do think that there is a lot more joy I could get out of life. And that is so sad when I hear myself say that. But it is my truth. Yes. And that is where I am. And that is where I've been for many years. And that is down to the way I feel about my body. And I would love to come on here in a year and go, number one, actually, I'd love to come on here in a year and be a size 10 and go, hey, look at me. I've found the magic pill. But if that didn't happen, I would love to come on in whatever body I'm in and go, yes, this is cool. This is great. I'm enjoying my body. But even if I did say that, I still would want some humanity and some sensitivity, yes, around me and my body and people commenting on it.
Yes.
And I think that's the conversation.
Making assumptions about you because of the size of your body.
Yeah.
And yeah, my greatest desire and wish is the same as you, Joe, in that I don't actually care what size my body is, because, you know, I'm very happy size 14. That's where I sit, and that's where I love my body. I don't really care what size my body is. I just want to love it, because it deserves to be loved. It deserves to be nurtured. And when I'm in this overwhelming space, it's a self-loathing that comes up, and that's how I attack myself, by doing that to myself. And so ultimately, like a real deep self-love for myself, and especially for the body that provides me life, that I'm so grateful for and I really appreciate. And I want to love it by saying no to those things that I know are not loving for it.
Okay. Sorry, you were just finishing off and then we were rudely cut off.
I was just saying that that's my deepest desire. It's not to be a size 8 or a size 10 or have a 6-pack or, you know, a certain shape, whatever. I don't care for those things, but I do really care that I want to experience my life and myself where I love my body, because it deserves that love. I love me enough to love my body. And you know, because I am very grateful for my body. I just don't treat it that way, and that upsets me.
I totally get that, and I mirror that, and I'm sure we're not the only ones that do that. I know people in my circle, and I said they're their stories. I'm not going to name names or say who they are, but there are people in my circle who feel exactly the same. And it's the thing that I find really sad for me and for you, because I know you're a little bit the same. But it's like, I know I'm going to live with regret.
Yes.
I hate that. I hate that. But I know I am, because I am not doing the things that I'd like to do. And when I do the things I like to do, it's never with an open mind full of joy. It's always with that voice, that
I wish I
condescending.
didn't have this body while I'm doing this.
And I don't, and that's my voice though. I also have several other voices talking to me as you are awful, you are ugly. How dare you be visible? How can you do this? You know, and I'm there in my head, as well as my own voice going, come on, Joe, you know,
Yeah.
how have you not got a grip in this? You know, so that's my voice. But there are these other voices in my head that are just bashing me all the time and really bringing me down. And, you know, and I've always used to say, you know, never say you're a failure. Oh my God, that's terrible. I'm a living, walking failure. I really am. I have not managed to achieve something that should be in my grasp. And that is very likely for protection of my mind against trauma.
Yes.
That's my story. Please, I don't want everybody to come away from this and go, oh my gosh, so now every fat person has got a trauma. It's not true. It's not true. But there will be fat people, very, very thin people, and people who look average but still have a distorted view of themselves and their body.
Yes.
And I think that's also part of it. It's just kind of, you want to do hashtag be kind, because I don't know what it is about being bigger where people can just treat you like less than.
Yes.
When did that happen? I don't know. There must have, when?
But the reality is, Joe, really much deeper and much more importantly than that is we need to be kind to ourselves.
I know.
And maybe then people will be kinder to us. I don't know if that's you know, like an energy exchange. You know, I know people are not kind, but I know I'm not kind to myself, and that's more important to me than other people not being kind to me. You know, and I started since January. Every single day I wake up, I say my mantra, I look in the mirror, Glenys, I love you. I love my body. Like, I love your body. I love what it does for you. I'm so great. I've been doing that for months and months and months and months. And I'm not saying that it should be stopped. I think it's a beautiful thing to do that. All I'm really saying is it isn't through want of trying. It isn't through reading 10,000 books, taking courses, going to workshops, going to healers, going to seminars, going to therapists. It's not through want of trying 27,000 diets, different workout routines, personal trainers. I mean, we've both done it all. And that isn't to say that none of those things could work wonderfully for other people. But what we're saying is it's a struggle for us, and we know it's a struggle for many other people. And we know that they're hiding behind that. And I think what we're saying is, like, let us know, like, come out and say what we're saying too, because maybe it will be helpful to other people that are feeling the same way as we are. Maybe they're on their own. Maybe they don't know how to tell anyone else. Maybe they can't have that conversation with people. Maybe they are secretly eating at 3 o'clock in the morning, which I do sometimes. And they would be mortified if someone came into the kitchen and watched what they were doing. And, you know, if you're on your own and you've got no one to share that with, then, you know, come and speak out.
I think that is the thing. I think this whole whirlwind that I started 2 days ago, was through that kind of, oh my gosh. And one thing I do actually really want to say is the cabin crew member who spoke to me, I do not believe there was a mean,
No.
so there wasn't a mean bone in his body. I don't know him. He could have been really mean in his body. I don't know. I don't think what he said was in malice.
No.
I think he just didn't occur to him that that could be an issue. So actually, the whole reason why I did that TikTok was because I managed through my writing to hold myself together, not freak out, not cry my eyes out and not scream. And actually, through my writing, I did speak to him very quietly when he was on his own, discreetly, so as not to show, what's that about me? So as not to embarrass him. Anywho, what does that say? But still, but I didn't want to embarrass him, and I wanted to speak really gently and calmly, and I did. And he did say, but after he initially kind of went, yeah, but those seats, I'm like, you're missing the point. It's how you've dealt with this. It's how you could have let me sit in the seat. You could have waited until I asked for an extension belt if I needed one or wanted one. And then you could have said to me quietly, sorry, madam, these are this seats, this is what, and I'd go, oh, fine. And I'd have moved. As it happened, I didn't need an extension belt. So straight away, there was an assumption. So that there's quite a lot around that very small interaction we had.
Yes.
That happened so very fast, but there are big repercussions for me. And it just shows a bigger picture. And I was just thinking, I'm really fortunate that I was able to write this down. And I was able to dump some of those feelings down. And I eventually did eat chocolate that I was offered, and I scoffed it in and tried to make myself feel better. Anyway, obviously, it's the absolute opposite of what we should be doing. But, you know, and so I did that. But the reason I ended up doing the TikTok was just that kind of going, but somebody else might not have been, they might have been on their last nerve. They might have just been holding themselves together. Whereas I was kind of here, somebody else could have been here. You know, and that kind of, and when the faces turned and looked at me, I was like, I just wanted to just disappear. Some people, that could have been too much. That could have been just the last thing. And just to have those people look at them. And, you know, had I cried, I don't even know how that would have played out. Not well. I would have then been so horrified at myself. I would have, I just can't even imagine how awful that would have been. But if that would happen to somebody else in a different position, that might have tipped them over, and that might have hurt them more than it hurt me. That could have caused a knock-on effect for someone. I was lucky. My knock-on effect was being stupid enough to go onto TikTok and put my feelings in a public environment. But that's what I did. But I did that because I just kept thinking, somebody else is going to go through this. Somebody else is going to go through this, and it's not fair. It's not fair. And I was like, we just need a little bit more care, a little bit more thought. You know, we know to treat certain, we've grown as a society that we have learned to treat certain groups of people with more respect than we did years ago. Yes. And we're progressing. There are so many groups of people. I won't mention them here, but we all know who they are. There's, you know, loads of individual groups of people, and we've become so much more tolerant and understanding than we ever were. And yet we seem to have slipped through the net. Yeah. You know, big people, larger people, fat people, whatever you want to call us, have slipped through that net of compassion. And I'm just like, I just wanted some sensitivity so that one person, preferably 5, would not have to experience it. Yes. And now it looks that, you know, obviously now I've really caused an issue to myself, and that's fine. That's the cross that I bear. But that's what the original TikTok was for. And actually, one thing that I do want to say, and I will definitely create another TikTok to really push this over and put it on the right platform, is that EasyJet, somebody else tagged EasyJet. I never tagged EasyJet. The comments tagged EasyJet, and then EasyJet contacted me and said, please email us. I did not name the person, and I said, I do not want this person to get into trouble. I have no interest in getting this person into trouble. I just would like some sensitivity for other people. Can you reinforce your training? Can you enhance it? Can you maybe redo it? I don't know what training you're doing on this topic, but can you? That's what I would really like to see. And you know what? They sent me an email. And it was lovely, really lovely. And they reassured me they were not going to go for the person, because I was really concerned. I did not want to get this person in trouble. And they were so apologetic. And they were just really lovely in the way that they spoke about what I'd said. They read the notes as well. So that was like, oh, you know, they read that. And the email that they sent back there was no excuses put in. And they absolutely accepted it. And they said, we are going to make this as part of our training. And then because of the Sun article that came out, and then EasyJet were asked for comment, and this whole thing blew up again today, I re-emailed the person at EasyJet, and I'm like, who knew this was going to happen? And I just said, you know, I have asked for some words to be taken off because I've been misquoted, and journalists have added their own words that I didn't say. And I'm like, and that's made it look as if this person meant to be mean. And I don't think he did. And I didn't do that TikTok to diss EasyJet or to diss that person. I did it to go, come on, give us some respect. Please leave us with some dignity. Please be sensitive, because not everybody is body positive and yeah, I'm fat, fabulous. So wish I was that. I'm not. And all I really wanted was just to go, please, can you just add a little bit of training? And you know what? The email I got back today has said that absolutely, to reassure me, because I was then kind of, because it's gone global, the newspapers have got involved. I'm like, I really hope that the person involved has managed to remain anonymous. I don't want anything to happen to that person. I just want overall global of, you know, some sensitivity. And she was so lovely. And she come back and she went, do not worry, we are not, they've had a meeting about it. And they've spoken to a specific department, and they are not going to single this person out. They are actually going to reinforce their sensitivity training on this issue. And I'm like, wow,
Right.
How fabulous is that? So not only is maybe one or two crew members, you know, on any airline going to go, okay, yeah, maybe I need to think about that next time, and maybe I need to be a bit more discreet. They are reinforcing, or even creating, I don't know, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but they are going to do sensitivity training around this across the board. And I'm like, that is something that makes this conversation worthwhile.
It totally is. And also, just to also reiterate, reading the comments on TikTok, this situation has happened to other people, many other people, and it wasn't just EasyJet. It's across the board. So this isn't about airlines failing. This is just about human beings being more sensitive and understanding. You know, that wasn't EasyJet's fault. It was the person who made the comments fault.
Just not that. Just not. And you know, we don't know what we don't know.
Yes.
For example, in my TikTok, I called this person a steward. Yes. And the comments are like, oh, what, we back in the 1950s calling us stewards? And I'm like, oh my Lord, I Googled them. And actually, it's still called steward in the US, in the UK. And Virgin Atlantic and BA have the word steward in their recruitment. So I'm like, I'm not sure where I went wrong, but I have obviously, steward is not the name anymore. Right. I didn't know that. So I don't know what I don't know. And I think this guy didn't know what he didn't know. And now he knows. And like, that's all. I just know, you know, we don't know what we don't know. My gosh, I make mistakes as we are learning all the time. But once I'm told of that mistake, and once I get the information that I didn't previously have, I flip in, learn by it. And that's what's going to happen now. You know, you get a bit of training, it sits in your head, and you're just more sensitive. You know, and I think the thing is, I think it is worth talking about the fact it's airlines in general, but I do think airlines particularly are a really awkward place, because number one, the seats are like this anyway. And then you have,
I'm wide. I'm wide. They do not suit me.
It's just, you know, and when you are bigger, and like I have gained, I don't know, probably 7 pounds since I was last on a plane. And I have to say, it didn't cross my mind that I wasn't going to sit in the seat. And it was only when I was sitting in the seat that I thought, oh, never forgot about these seats being this bad, being this snug. You know, so and then you also have an audience of, I don't know how many people are on different jets, you know, 100 people, 200 people, 300 people, and more than a few people have commented that they've asked for an extension belt for their seatbelt, and the air hostess is walking down the aisle going, who asked for the extension belt? You know, and they might as well shout, who's the fatty? You know, and again, if you don't care about that, you'll go, I'm the fatty, thank you very much, lovely. Someone like me will inwardly die.
Yes.
And there are people on the comments that have literally gone, I burst into tears and I cried the whole journey. You know, and there have been people where they've kind of, one person I just really remember, as she was saying, apart from being waved at, and she's like, yes, it's mine, she stood 2 rows in front of her and proceeded to go, if you need an extension belt, this is how it's used. And so the poor girl is just going, please just take me out now, just take me out. And again, like I said, for some people wouldn't give a toss, but the people that are leaving these comments on the TikTok really do. Yes. And it hurts. It really hurts. And I think the other thing is it's not instant. Like you can make a decision, and I hate to keep using the alcoholic terms, but everybody knows what we're talking about when we use that. As an alcoholic, you can wake up and you can make that decision. That's it. Rock bottom, done. I am not going to drink anymore. And you then, please God, if you make that decision, that's it. You're not an alcoholic anymore. You do not need to, you know, you've made that decision. You are not going to drink anymore. From that moment, you stop being an alcoholic. Yes. Now, I wake up every morning and go, that's it. Enough. No more chocolate, no more sweeties, no more frappes. I just have to change my life. Oh, no, that didn't change. Yeah. And this, even if we do manage to find that miracle for us that unlocks this brain, this isn't going to disappear overnight.
No.
This, if it's going to be healthy, and I don't do healthy, but if this was going to be healthy loss, we're talking a 2-year, still in a body that is betraying the decision I've made.
Yes.
You know, so I might be exercising 5 times a week. I might be eating clean. You know, I might be absolutely doing everything there is that I need to do. And no difference is going to show to strangers for years.
Yeah.
It's not an instant thing.
No.
And that is the other difficulty.
It's also, just to just go back very slightly, Joe, I just want to make it clear that this isn't, you're not saying that this is a competition between an alcoholic and a person, you know, with emotional eating issues. That's not what you're saying. One is worse than the other at all.
Oh my gosh, no, they're all debilitating. They're all absolutely awful. And that's the same as gambling. It's the same as any addiction. You know, if you've got gambling, drinking, drugs, food, shopping, spending, you know, there are all those things, but all of those things aren't visible.
Yes.
They can be hidden to a degree. They destroy lives.
Yes.
They destroy how your brains are thinking, and you might be walking around with not a jot of peace in your mind with all of those things.
Yeah.
But it's not visible, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
They're all awful. And you know, I'm definitely not doing a comparison, but I'm doing that kind of when a decision is made for any of those other things, that behavior stops. They're stopped. My behavior stops. I look the same.
Yes.
It doesn't mean, hey, I'm a size 2, or I now love myself. Yay.
Well, I think that's the key though, Joe. I think you will feel that. You know, those wonderful people who are in whatever size body they are, they're like, I love my body. You know, I know people size 8 with the most amazing figures that don't love their body. So this isn't about the size.
No,
this is about the emotional connection that you have with food and how then that makes you feel about your body, because you have disappointed yourself by, you know, binging or just eating the wrong things all day. And so when you look at your body, there's an aspect of self-loathing. So I do believe that actually at the point that we do say that's it, that will be the point where it's self-loving and not self-loathing. And so maybe we can look in the mirror and say, actually, I do love that body. So, you know.
Yeah. And I think we should, again, just because I'm so used to hate now, I just feel like I need a bloody disclaimer across everything I say. But I also think, you know, that whole, I totally get everything and I totally agree with what you just said. But there will be people, and it's not about food, and they will be on medication to keep them alive. You know, and to stop illnesses and all that kind of stuff. And it's not about food for them. They may still have this hatred of this body that they can't control, or this body that's betrayed them. So we might have that in common, but I don't want to let anybody think that you and I are thinking this is about food. It's not. No. Our journey is about food, and the lack of control, and that we medicate with food. That's our journey. There are other people that medicate with tablets that causes them to get big. That is out of their control. They have different issues, which still require sensitivity.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. And maybe we should wrap this up here, Jo, in that's the bottom line. That was your thing in the outset. It's have some sensitivity, and for people's, the way, just in general, people's appearance, because we live in a world and we live in a society where it is important, whether we spiritually want it to be or not. It just is. It's how we're programmed. It's how we're hardwired. And so there is an aspect of importance of it. So just be sensitive.
Yeah.
To, you know, maybe someone's wearing something and you're looking and thinking, that's odd. Just have some sensitivity. You just don't know someone's journey. You don't know someone else's story. So just in general, in every situation, specifically about appearances, have a level of sensitivity. Yeah. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it. And obviously, if people want to comment on that and share their stories, like, I would really love to hear people's stories. If it's something that they're willing to share, whether it's privately or you know, publicly, that's entirely up to them. But I would love to hear people, and if they're suffering in some way, you know, maybe someone's got a nugget of information, or maybe you've got a nugget of gold for them, or vice versa. Who knows? You know, I tend to find the best experts in something are those people that live through it. There may be some people that have come through the other side that say, I know what you're going through, and this is what I did.
Yeah. And also it's finding ways of when you're en masse with people that share something, and, you know, and this is we share an understanding.
Yes.
You know, no matter how we are in the different bodies that we're in, we have an understanding of how we are not happy with that, and we're out of control with that. And that's an understanding. The more people you have with the same understanding, the less sensitive you feel yourself, and the more you're like, oh, okay, oh, this isn't just me, there are other people. You know, and then we normalize it ourselves. And I do think sometimes it just takes a few people to start vocalizing it for others to go, that's me, thank you. And now that's almost opened the door, or given permission, for want of a better word, or that opportunity to go, yeah, I get that, I understand that. And I think that's where you can have a community of people that support each other, and if nothing else, just to share stories, because sometimes getting that story out, I think, can relieve you of some pain.
Agreed.
You know, when you talk about it, when you share it with people that care, relate, have compassion, you can actually, it can make you feel better, and you're not alone. You know, you don't have to be alone.
I'm glad that you you know, had the courage to do the TikTok videos. It's given me the courage to even speak to you on video, because, as you know, on all my social media pages, I'm never live. I'll never put myself out there like this. So this is huge for me, even to do this. So you know, it's helped in that regard. You know, so hopefully it will do the same for other people.
And I just pray that has people maybe listen to this, they understand that, respect that, and just, you know, if nothing else, they can't say anything. Hashtag be kind. You know, we've put ourselves out here. I've been a little bit hung, drawn and quartered the last few days, rightly or wrongly, but I have. And I'm like, you know, we are openly talking about something that you and I would really rather keep between ourselves, but we know it's a bigger conversation to be had. And you and I are driven, annoyingly on my part, to help people.
Yes.
And if that means we have to put ourselves out there and be a bit mortified that people that never knew what was going on in my head now do, then so be it, if we can help people. And I think on the back of this, you know, we've had a conversation about this. We might end up even doing a podcast if there's a flavour for it, if there's a taste for it, if it will be a positive thing, then maybe we will continue this discussion, and we'll see where it goes. But I think for me, the most important thing is that something has changed, and it's whether we continue that conversation. If it's helpful, we'll continue that conversation. If it's not helpful, I'm just gonna slowly disappear back to being nice and private, but knowing that we've made a difference. There's some training out there. Somebody has been saved.
Yes.
A little bit of discomfort at least, and that's a good thing. Well, so what we will do on this, wherever this video ends up, who knows where it's going to end up. It was going to be a TikTok live, but we couldn't make it work. It would have been really nice to put it on the platform where this all started, but we just couldn't make it work with the tech. So wherever this is, YouTube, my website, Glenys's website, we will put underneath how you can communicate with us and how you can have a dialogue with us if you want to. I can't offer you anything other than my time and understanding. That's all I can offer.
I can offer love and you know, some expertise in the fact that it's a journey that I am on, not one that I have overcome. So just to be clear about that, I'm not the other side, but we've journeyed a lot with it. So yes.
But we are August 2022, and who knows where we'll be August 2024. We might still be sat here in the same bodies having the same discussion, or we might be sat here, please God, in whatever bodies we're in, discussing, do you remember back in the day?
Yes.
When people felt it was okay to talk about people's bodies, and now it's not so much. That'd be good. That'd be really cool. Thank you, Glenys. Thank you for guiding me through this and keeping my ADHD kind of a little bit controlled. Heaven knows where we'd be without you. Thank you for being so honest and open. You know, people watching this won't know, but I do absolutely know that, you know, this is a massive risk for you to be putting yourself out there, you know, and it is really uncomfortable.
Yes.
But it is really uncomfortable, and I am aware, and I just hope that whoever gets this, whoever's hands it falls into, treats it lightly with that.
With some love, you know, and respect, because
100%.
That's how it's intended, and that's the place this is coming from. It's not, you know, that's the core thing, is that, you know, maybe the more love we have of one another, the more love we can have of ourselves. It should be the other way around, but I'm just not sure we're quite that as evolved as a society. But look, thank you for the time, and, you know, as always, thank you for your love and support with everything, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, watch this space. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you if you are still with us. Put your comments in whatever platform we're on, and come and find us on our websites, and we will put that underneath. Thank you, darling. Take care. Bye.
Bye.